they feel is not due to us, but is sourced much closer to them. Thus, we are as pleased with the sum of suppression we could ever muster is eclipsed by that of your own RTC. Knowledge is free. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
So this is actually an example of how digital protest activism translated exactly into real-life protest. Anonymous took to the streets, basically raising awareness in addition to their online activist campaign. And part of their goal was to get a certain video of Tom Cruise, which made him sound absolutely crazy, put back on the internet, and they accomplished that in my now. So, yeah, it just goes to show you some of the goals and some of the reasoning behind activist campaigns. Really anonymous.
So more recently, one of Anonymous's hacktivists, George Holmes, decided he would mess with Sony PlayStation, and what exactly did he do with it?
Well, he started jailbreaking iPods. Pretty much, he was really adept at reverse engineering products so that he could play around with them and you customize them to whatever ends he desired. And he posted videos giving tutorials on how to do this so that anyone could hack into these products. Specifically, what the conflict over was the PS3. He figured out how to reverse engineer it so that you could play games on it for free, essentially. And Sony ended up suing him, and this is Anonymous defending George Hotz. This is pretty short.
Hello Sony. It has come to our unfortunate attention that you have decided to interrupt the free flow of information. As you well know from other acts performed by Anonymous, that we will not stand for this. By suing GeoHot and attempting to view the IP addresses of those who watched his videos, you have entered the hive. You have abused and penalized your customers for obtaining and sharing jailbreak software. This is the same thing as someone buying and legally owning a computer but being punished for installing or deleting programs. You saw the hive, and you stuck your penis in it. Now you will feel the wrath of Anonymous. Your official websites will be taken offline, including the PlayStation Store. These attacks will continue until we are completely satisfied with the outcome. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive greedy companies. We do not forget the denial of free flow of information. Expect us.
Not only did they post this video and a message on the PlayStation forums, but they actually shut down the entire PlayStation network for, I think, around 48 hours. And the only reason that they lifted the attack on PlayStation Network was because they didn't want to hurt the gamers who otherwise could be enjoying the product. Their aim was purely against Sony for infringing on this guy's rights. I mean, this guy is the threat. He doesn't. He's not doing anything. He's a fair. So where do we go from here? Well, with a few exceptions, this presentation has focused mainly on hacktivist activities in the United States. But hacktivism is a truly global phenomenon. Amidst the revolutionary turmoil of the Middle East, Anonymous has spread its influence. Government websites in Tunisia, Egypt, Yemen, Algeria, and Iran, as well as Zimbabwe and Italy, have been attacked and at times shut down by hackers fighting for a cause. It's unfortunate that the media has blurred the difference between hacktivism and cyberterrorism because the goals of these hackers often coincide with what many would consider to be a greater good. But the future holds only progress for hacktivism in general. Hacktivists follow a similar path of continuous innovation, as indeed do the activists honing any tactical repertoire. With networks that are always vulnerable to new kinds of hacks and political structures that are always vulnerable to new forms of challenge, hacktivism will continue as a space for digital transgression and as a gleaming tool in the arsenal of revolution. Thank you.
I got a couple questions. I'm going to start off with, so you included a photo of the Yes Men in your presentation. presentation, so I was wondering, how do you distinguish between what they do and what you do, or what hacktivists?
Well, that's an excellent question, Matt. Basically, there are three types of hacktivism. There are political crackers who are marked by clearly illegal activities like site defacement or shutting down websites. There are performative hackers who are driven mostly by modern political theory, like the Yes Men. You can see how they appreciate notions of Foucault, for instance, who would say that revolution is a spectacle, and they're definitely interested in the spectacle of revolution. And then the third type is political coders, who focus mainly on issues that directly influence hackers, so things like individual rights. But another way to distinguish between them is by origins. Hacker programming culture gave rise to political cracking and coding, whereas postmodern leftist culture in general gave rise to performative activism like the Yes Men.
So you mentioned that the media, as well as governmental agencies, has kind of blurred the line between activism and cyber terrorism. Where exactly would the activists put the line, and how does that differ from the government's view?
Where would the activists put the line between what? Activism
Activism
and
and
cyber terrorism?
cyber.
I think you can draw a pretty clear definition and look at Hacktivist Manifesto, which states very clearly that they are nonviolent. Everything they do is nonviolence. Cyber terrorism, on the other hand, terrorists inherently want to cause terror, they want to cause loss of life, damage. So cyber terrorism, I think, has an aim of very clear destruction and disruption, resulting in harm, whereas hacktivists are much more focused on raising awareness, maybe causing some damage, not physical, not lasting emotional damage, but
There are a lot of similarities between cyber terrorism and hacktivism, like in the sense that they are both out to get an overreaction and they both want people to be aware of what they're doing. But the easiest way to distinguish between the two is that hacktivism is nonviolent, cyber terrorism doesn't really care.
We're short on time, but the future of this is very interesting in this sense. When you brought in the actions of the networks overseas, where you had entire societies essentially involved, and that story hasn't been written, hasn't finally been written yet, because the students who were organized all went home, and the Islamists in Egypt, for example, are just working deals out on the sidelines. So it'll be interesting to see how those networks continue to flow. When you pick the e-toys versus e-toy, that was an odd one, because in the end what they did was they took a backward, and I'm not sure what business e-toy was in, other than trying to, do an incredible job of holding hostage a name that it wanted a lot of money for. That is an interesting sidelight. But what happens when these hacktivists start taking aim at an entire system, like a capitalist system? There are a lot of people right now in this country, for example, who would say that this, when you take a look at the Goldman Sachs situations, or the entire mortgage foreclosure situation, and they're not aiming at banks generally, but they could. They could. What you're telling me, they could shut down the banks. Maybe that would be a good thing if they wanted to do
Shutting down a bank would probably be closer to an act of cyber terrorism, because that's going to directly influence people's lives in an obviously negative way. Even if in the long run it's for the greater good, that's kind of a gray area.
If they're smart enough about it, they can take aim.
That's true.
They could sit there and say, they could put the word out, you see this part of your business, we're shutting this part of the business down. Everybody who's, and they would warn everybody, get your money out, people could start taking money out of the banks. They could do all kinds of interesting things. Now your freedom of expression versus